Let's start off with the Angels, and I'll go with Grayson Rodriguez. Now, we all know the talent with G-Rod when healthy. Former top prospect in the game who's averaged just under 10 strikeouts per nine over 43 major league starts. And he's going to be working with one of the best pitching coaches out there in Mike Maddox. He's just got to stay healthy. On to the Astros, and I got Yordan Alvarez. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say here. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball going back to 2021, but last year he had a ton of injuries. Now, he said he's feeling great this spring, and at only 29 years old, he's right in the middle of his prime. For the A's, I'll go with Aaron Savali. Now, he was very solid just a few years ago, but he's had a rough go between 4 different teams over the last 2 seasons. Now, over a few outings with the Cubs last year, he did show some flashes of his old self, and with the A's looking weaker on the pitching side of things, a bounce-back year for Savali would be huge. For the Blue Jays, I got Jeff Hoffman. It was a tough first year in Toronto for Hoffman, who also gave up the game-tying home run to Miguel Rojas in Game 7 of the World Series, which eventually led to a second straight World Series championship for the Dodgers. I'm sorry, Blue Jays fans, I had to say it, but he was very up and down in the regular season as well, giving up about 2 home runs per 9, his highest rate since 2019 when he was with the Rockies. Had an ERA at a 4.37, at a FIP at 4.90, a negative 0.4 F4 overall. Now, to try and make some adjustments for this year, he's going to be throwing less fastballs, going to be focusing more on throwing the sliders and his secondary pitches to go along with it. So let's see if Hoffman can bounce back, and I don't see why not because he does have a good track record. On to the Braves, and I guess Spencer Strider. He was one of the top pitchers in baseball not too long ago, but then he had to get elbow surgery a couple of years ago, and after a hamstring injury last year, he was all out of whack, had an ERA and FIP in the mid-4s. His strikeout rate took a dip, so just a bad year overall, but a normal, healthy offseason, looking healthy this spring, and he's working on a curveball for this coming year, so I think he's set up for a bounce-back year. For the Brewers, I got Joey Ortiz. Now, defensively, Ortiz is an absolute wizard at shortstop, but the bat was basically non-existent last year with an OPS under 600. Now, he did make a lot of contact last year, though, and this past offseason, he did make some adjustments on the angle of his swing, so perhaps that translates into some better quality contact. For the Cardinals, I got Jordan Walker. Now, I'm pretty sure I've had him in this spot for a few straight years now, but he was a former top prospect, just hasn't found his way up to this point. Did have a good offseason, though. He lost some weight, and he made some adjustments with his mechanics. The Cardinals are going through a fresh start here, so let's see if this is the year that Walker finally breaks out. For the Cubs, I got Shota Imanaga. He was very good in his debut season a couple of years ago, but last year, his numbers did take a dip. His strikeouts went down, the home runs went up, which caused his FIP to go all the way up to a 4.86. Now, he did have a hamstring injury last year that threw him all out of whack, so hopefully a fully healthy season here is all he needs to get back on track. On to the Diamondbacks, and I'll go with Zach Gallen. Now, he did look better in the second half last year, but the first half was very bad with an ERA of a 5.40. He was getting hit a lot harder last year, and a big reason for that was the breaking stuff just wasn't quite there. He's always had good breaking stuff, but just didn't have quite the feel for it last year. He has made some adjustments this offseason, so hopefully that and a fresh start is all he needs, and then he can try to get that long-term deal next offseason. On to the Dodgers, and I'll go with Mookie Betts. Now, it feels kind of weird to put him here because he has been one of the best players in baseball for a while now, and the Dodgers do have other candidates like Tanner Scott or Teoscar Hernandez, who both weren't very good last year, but Mookie did have the worst offensive season of his career, and I think a big reason for that was the fact that he was focusing on playing shortstop over a full season for the first time, where he was very good, and he also lost a lot of weight because of the flu going into spring training last year. Now, there was a good sign from last season, where he hit a lot better in the second half. From August to September, he hit 294 with an OPS over 800 over that time. So I think Mookie, with a normal spring here, good second half last year, I think he'll get back on track this season. For the Giants, I'll go with Ryan Walker. Now, he didn't have a bad season last year. It was just a bit of a drop-off from what he did in 2024 when he was very good. Now, he had an ERA at a 4.11, and the strikeout rate dropped from 2024 as well. He had 11 strikeouts per 9 that year, and they dipped to 9 strikeouts per 9 last year. But the FIP still looked really good at a 3.30. The strikeout to walk ratio still looked very good. And he made some adjustments mechanically that should help him better with his command this coming year. So I think Ryan Walker, as the team's closer moving forward, is going to be solid. On to the Guardians, and I got Steven Kwan. He's still a hitting machine that makes a ton of contact, but there was a dip in the overall numbers last year. Now, his defense out in left field was still very good, and he tied a career high in stolen bases with 21, but the WRC Plus dropped around 30 points. The OPS dropped around 90 points overall. Now, this is due to a bad second half where he was playing through some nagging injuries, so hopefully he's good to go here in 2026. Now, with Kwan, again, has been a hitting machine in his career, has a very good track record, and he's going to be playing more center field this year, so that should give him a boost when it comes to the wins above replacement overall. On to the Mariners, and I'll go with Bryce Miller. Now, there's always been a lot of upside with Miller, who's got very good velo and stuff, but last year he was dealing with arm issues, and he saw his ERA and FIP jump into the fives. Now, he recently suffered an oblique injury this past spring that did set him back, but when it comes to the arm, he did have a non-surgical procedure with the elbow that has given him good results up to this point. He also tinkered with his slider and cutter this past offseason, which should help add more of a horizontal look to his pitch mix since he's relied pretty heavily on pitches with more vertical movement like his splitter and his sinker. For the Marlins, I go with Sandy Alcantara. Now, I've said it time and time again, great track record, but after coming back from Tommy John last year, he was very inconsistent. However, he did look a lot better in the second half last year, ERA at a 3.33 compared to an ERA over a 7 in the first half, and he reduced his walk rate at the same time. Now, he's had a normal, healthy offseason while pitching in the World Baseball Classic. Did look very good in the WBC, so I think Sandy is going to be good to go moving forward. Wrapping up the first half of this video, for the Mets, I got Luis Robert. He's been a bounce-back candidate so many times because of injuries, but when healthy, he has shown to be elite. He hit 38 homers with 20 stolen bases and great defense back in 2023, but he's averaged only around 100 games per season over the last couple of years. Hopefully, though, a clean bill of health and exchange of scenery with a playoff contender is all he needs to get himself right. On to the Nationals, and I'm going to go a bit outside the box here with Foster Griffin. He was actually in Japan the last few years, and the last time he pitched in the majors back in 2022, he had an ERA over 8. But he's back this year, though, after a few really good seasons in Japan, where he reinvented himself by leaning more into a cutter. And with the Nationals not really looking to contend this year, this is a good spot for him to work his way back. For the Orioles, I got Adley Rutschman. Now, his swing has been off for about a year and a half now, and with injuries as well, he hasn't really hit all that great for the last couple of seasons, but one thing that's been constant with Adley is his good plate discipline metrics, which have still ranked well over the last couple of seasons. He also made some adjustments with his swing this past offseason, and with a clean bill of health and a good track record that he has, I'm going to say he gets back on track. For the Padres, I was going to go with Joe Musgrove, but his return has been delayed, so I'm going to go with Walker Buehler. Now, with Musgrove and the track record he has, I don't see why he couldn't be a good bounce-back candidate as long as he's healthy, but I feel pretty good about Buehler right now. Now, last year, he did have his first full season after coming back from his second Tommy John, and while he did show flashes of his old self while also limiting the hard contact, it was a down season overall. ERA at a 4.93, FIP at a 5.66 between the Red Sox and the Phillies, but he had a good offseason, worked on a couple of pitches, worked on the changeup and the sweeper as well, and he's also back on the West Coast in the NL West, and with the Padres having a good track record of getting more out of their starting pitching, I can see this being a good fit. For the Phillies, I got Adolis Garcia. Now, his slash line really fell off over the last couple of years, but he still had good batted ball data, and he's made some adjustments with the swing with Phillies hitting coach Kevin Long, who does have a very good reputation, and he's hitting a lot better this spring, so I'm feeling good about Adolis moving forward. For the Pirates, I got Brian Reynolds. Now, his OPS dropped around 70 points last year, and he did strike out a little bit more, but there's still a few things that make me confident with him moving forward. His batted ball data still looked okay. He wasn't chasing too much outside the zone last year, and he did make a couple adjustments with the swing this past offseason, but most of all, what I like here is that the Pirates actually brought in some bats to give him more protection in the lineup, so I think when you blend all those ingredients together, he's going to have himself a good year. It was a rough debut season for Jock Peterson on the Rangers last year, and actually he had one of the worst seasons in all of Major League Baseball with a negative 0.8 F4 overall. My goodness, hit 181, a 285 on base, a 328 on the slugging, a 76 WRC plus, but believe it or not, there are still a couple of good signs for him moving forward. Exit velo and the hard hit percentage still look good. The walk rate was still all right at 11%, and for this coming year, he did lose some weight going into spring training, and he did work on his swing this past offseason with the Rangers hitting coach. So I'd say when you blend all that together with the track record that he has, along with better numbers in the second half, the majority of these bad numbers came from the first half last year. So I'd say when you put all that together, I say he gets back to being productive. On to the Rays, and I go with Shane McClanahan. Now, the last couple of years have basically been lost for him because of Tommy John and nerve issues last season, but things are looking good for him this spring, and he was one of the best pitchers in baseball before he got Tommy John a couple of years ago because of the good velo and stuff that he has. So as long as he's healthy, I don't see why he can't get back to what he was doing. For the Red Sox, I go Justin Slayton. He was so good back in 2024, and he wasn't bad this past season, but it could have been a lot better. He had a shoulder problem that made him miss a lot of time, and because of that, he wasn't quite himself. The strikeout rate dropped a lot from what it was in 2024, but he still did a good job at limiting the walks and the home runs, and his stuff is looking good this spring, so I'm going to bank on him having himself a good year. For the Reds, I got Matt McLain. Now, he had a great rookie season back in 2023, but after that, he got shoulder surgery, which did cause him to miss all of 2024. Now, last year, he did come back, but he didn't look right. He had an OPS under 650. Despite that, though, he still showed flashes of the upside that he has. 15 home runs with 18 stolen bases and a pretty decent walk rate. So even though he had himself a bad year, he still showed signs, and he is looking really good this spring. So I say we're going to get back to the old Matt McLain. The Rockies need to find a way to bounce back in general, but I'll go with Jake McCarthy here. He was very good with the D-backs a couple of years ago, but he fell off last year with an OPS under 600. However, he is looking good this spring, and even though the batted ball metrics didn't look great with him last year, he's going to be playing at Coors moving forward. For the Royals, I got to go with Cole Ragans. Now, he finished 4th in Cy Young voting a couple of years ago, but then last year he ran into injuries that limited him to 13 starts overall. ERA was at a 4.67, but the FIP was a lot better at a 2.50. That was because of a very high strikeout rate of 14 strikeouts per 9 for crying out loud. So the key with Ragans is just staying healthy. Seems to be good to go this spring, so hopefully Ragans gets back to that Cy Young form this year. On to the Tigers, and I got Beau Brieske. Now, I was hoping to go with Parker Meadows here, but he hasn't looked good this spring after a down season last year, so I'm not feeling too confident with him right now. As for Brieske, though, he had a bad season last year as well after dealing with arm issues, but the velo still looked good with him, and he was very good back in 2024. Now, with Brieske, he is going to be missing opening day with a groin strain, but so far, looks like the arm is doing good, and he's proven to be a solid arm out of the bullpen. I say he gets back to that when he eventually comes back. For the Twins, I go with Taj Bradley. Now, he was a former top prospect not too long ago, but then last year he was traded to the Twins for Griffin Jax, and overall just had himself a down year. ERA at a 5.05. Now, the FIP was better at a 4.35, but still not great overall. However, I'm feeling good about him moving forward. He's got the velo, he's got the stuff, but on top of that, he has made some adjustments. He is going to be getting away from the 4-seamer, going to start leaning more into a cutter and a 2-seamer moving forward. So I'm feeling better about his situation right now. So because of the upside that he has and the adjustments he's made, I'm feeling good about him moving forward. For the White Sox, I go with Anthony Kay. Now, we got another outside the box pick here because he was also in Japan over the last couple of years. Now, the last time he pitched in the major leagues was 2023, but he had an ERA over 6. Then he went to Japan for those 2 seasons, and he pitched a lot better, ERA at a 2.5. Now, when he was in Japan, he leaned away from the 4-seamer, started using more of a cutter and a sinker as well, while mixing in a good slider and changeup. So overall, his pitch repertoire is looking better here moving forward, and he was a higher ranking prospect at one point when he was with the Blue Jays a few years back. So I got confidence that he's going to work well in the White Sox system. Last but not least, for the Yankees, I got to go with Gerrit Cole. Now, he missed all of last year after getting Tommy John, but he just made his return in spring training not too long ago. The velo and the breaking stuff are looking good, and he's made some adjustments with his mechanics, mainly going with an arms overhead motion to help him more with his rhythm, and he looks like he's in good shape overall. So when you combine those factors with the fact that he was one of the best pitchers in baseball not too long ago, I have no doubt that he's going to get right back to that. But everybody, those are my picks for bounce back players this year. Let me know who you think is going to bounce back this year down below in the comments. I'd love to see what you think. But everybody, if you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. We are trying to get to 60K by the All-Star break. If you can help us out, I'll love you forever. But everybody, that's all I got. I'll talk to you next time.